Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the pleasure to welcome a friend of mine, Miss Soleil Blackwell. She's a Northwestern um, University journalist and communication graduate. She's an author and blogger, and she's the author of the book called Decolonizing the Body. Miss Soleil, thank you very much for joining me on the Human Right Tree.
My pleasure. Nice to see you, Alpha, as always.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
On July 24, 2025,
hmm
you wrote a blog titled Why I Changed My First Name. Miss Soleil, why you change your first name? What inspired you to change your first name?
Yeah, as I wrote in that blog, it felt like my name was ready to change.
Hmm,
It felt like my name started to slip away. Um, and how I experienced that was people forgetting my name, people I've known for a long time being like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I spaced out on your name for a minute."
hmm,
And then noticing what that arose in me, which was not like, "Oh, I can't believe you don't remember my name," but more like, "Oh, it's okay, like it's fine. Call me what you want to call me," which is different from how it used to be
hmm,
because for so long, I would get so irritated when people would call me Chelsea or, you know, um, yeah, that would probably be the one I got the most. But when people would forget my name or call me the wrong name, I noticed this sort of like energy around that, like, no, like this is my name. And that started to just fall away where I didn't really care as much. And that was kind of my first inclination that it was like, oh, I think something is happening with my name. And then right around the same time as that, I went to this conference in Golden Gate Park. So I live in San Francisco, and I went to this conference in Golden Gate Park, and there was a woman there who went by the name Madre Jaguar.
hmm,
And I went to her session just because I was like, who is this person with this name? And she was just such a like grounded, just a nice, simple, regular person. And she had decided that she wanted to go by Madre Jaguar. And I was really inspired and was like, wow, well, if I could choose my own name, what would I choose? And I didn't have an immediate answer, but that was sort of like those were the seeds that were planted that kind of opened up this inquiry of actually naming myself.
hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how long it took you to
Uh-huh.
come to this decision? Because many people may entertain the idea because when we were born, we were not there to give our approval to our parents. The parents often see a name that they liked and they want
hmm
to give that name to their baby.
hmm
I'm guessing for out of love for the baby. And people may entertain, but often they may say, well, they gave me this name, I'm going to keep it. And you did have the courage, we may recognize, accept it, acknowledge it, that you decide you will change your name. So how long it take? It came, you figured out about the name and change it, or it took you time to process, overcome fears and think and
Mm.
decide thing. How was the process of changing your name, Miss Soleil?
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I realized I wanted to change my name in November of 2024.
mm,
And then I wrote that blog in July of 2025. And sort of between that period of time, which what would that, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So 9 months,
mm,
which is, I never thought of that, but 9 months, like the time it takes for a baby to be born. So the
mm,
seed was planted, and then 9 months later, the baby came forward. But at first, I was really unsure, honestly. I think my biggest concern was I didn't want to be a burden to other people. Like, oh no, now people are gonna have to like just have to think about it before they call me my name. And I just felt um I felt more concerned about how other people would respond.
mm,
Um I I told a couple close friends and they were very enthusiastic. Um and they started helping me think of possible new first names.
mm,
And I don't remember how I landed on Soleil, but I remember that when I landed on it, I felt really like I liked the way that word felt in my mouth.
mm,
I liked how it felt to say it. And then I just sort of kept it to myself for a while. Um, and then I went to a workshop and we went around the circle and and we introduced ourselves. And I said, my name is Kelsey, but I've been thinking of changing my name to Soleil. And then everyone in that workshop was like, oh my God, we love that name. And they started calling me Soleil all weekend. And it felt so good to be called Soleil. And it was just the kind of like support, it was just the support I needed because rather than people feeling burdened by my name change, they were supportive and it actually made them excited. And so that was the nudge. And I actually had my name tag. I've got it right here, actually. I had my name tag on one side it says Kelsey, and
mm.
then on the other side I wrote Sally. So this was the workshop that I went to where I changed my name.
What was the date?
Um,
What was the date on it? I see the date. Mm,
there's no date on it, but
mm.
it was roughly I want to say June.
Okay, of this
So
year.
from
Mm.
November to June, I just was sort of like thinking
Processing.
about it.
Mm,
And then I went to that workshop and I just ventured that forward and then I got that support. And then after that, it just kind of snowballed and I realized I needed to come out in a more visible way. So I wrote the blog in July. Um, the thing though that I wasn't expecting, and this might sound naive, but I wasn't expecting that changing my name would actually change so many other things in my life. Um, and what I mean by that is like, I feel like I've been in the process of becoming more of who I am.
mm,
And in that process, some things, some patterns have revealed themselves and some ways of being have revealed themselves
mm,
that are falling away. And and that process has been both freeing and also has brought me into places of a lot of tenderness and grief.
mm,
So I wasn't expecting that I would change my name and then like all these other things would shift as well.
mm,
And now that I say that, I'm like, well, of course, like na your name is a vibration and it has its own energy and intelligence and
yeah.
it's going to change things when you change your name.
Yes.
But I didn't expect that. So
Yeah.
so that's just a word to anyone who might be thinking like, yeah, you change your name and it's not the only thing that changes.
Yeah. It's part of your identity, you know, your name,
Exactly.
and changing it mean you, in some way, you touch, you kind of scratching a little bit that identity, you know. So, however, my other question will be,
Mhm.
did the change, um, did you forward the change through a legal process, or is just a fun that like many people do to go and symbolically changing their name?
Mhm.
Which what is the situation with Soleil?
Yeah.
Is it legal or no?
No, it's not legal.
Okay.
Uh, it And it was funny, Alpha, because I booked a flight recently and I
Okay.
booked the flight for Soleil. And then I was like, oh no, my driver's license says Kelsey. So I had to go back in and like change everything. Um, yeah, I'm not saying that I will never make it legal,
Yeah.
but I just haven't been called to take that step yet.
Yeah. So you didn't see the need of taking the legal procedure to officialize your name as a Soleil.
That's right.
If is the case, can you take us back to Kelsey, the
Uh-huh.
origin of that name? How um, take us on how your parents come up with that name? You know,
Uh-huh.
Kelsey.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so Alpha, I'm not entirely sure where they got that name from.
Mm.
Kelsey has now become a somewhat popular name. Like you've seen Kelseys, I'm sure, in the world.
I
Have
can
you?
I can say yes, but as far as Kelsey, if Kelsey come to me, I will remember Kelsey Blackwell.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Well, when I was young,
Mm,
so I'm 44, and um, when I was born, Kelsey was not a popular name. I was the only Kelsey for, I want to say like 7-ish years, 7 to 10 years. Um, And then that name got popular. And now, so a lot of the Kelseys in the world are younger than me, about 10 years younger than me.
mm,
And and I don't know, there was something about the the name and kind of um who I often would envision as a Kelsey that didn't actually match me.
mm,
So where where I grew up, a lot of the Kelseys that I would meet were white and blonde and kind of friendly and bubbly and um, nice enough, but but yeah, they just felt younger than me. And so I started to feel um and this was much younger and maybe not fully conscious, but I started to feel sort of frustrated that I would when I would meet others who had my name, because I didn't feel like a sense of maybe like I had had a sense of uniqueness when I was growing up, and then that started to go away because there were just more and more Kelseys out in the world. Um, But I would say that today I don't I, I don't dislike my name, Kelsey. I still have a fondness for her. She feels like a part of myself that will always be here, and she feels younger. She feels um like you know, kind of maybe happy-go-lucky, kind of positive. Um, and those are aspects of myself for sure. Um, but they're not all. Those are not all my aspects. And so I kind of wanted, I don't want to get rid of Kelsey. Like I still love her, but I
Mm.
wanted to feel like instead of indifference when someone said my name, I wanted to feel like a yes, like, oh yeah, that is me. And so that was part of the shift in myself that I felt like I could finally claim. One of those patterns that's sort of loosening as I've shifted my name is like there's a way in which I have historically just tended toward identifying my wants or my needs based on the perceived wants and needs of others. So it would be hard for me, like when I was younger, and it still is somewhat hard today, when someone says, like, well, what do you want? Well, what do you like? Because I often would think, well, what do we want? What do we like? So there's a way that I would be sort of disconnected from my wants and needs because I wanted things to be harmonious and I wanted things to be people to be happy and I wanted to like be not cause any tension or not to be the person that people related to in a positive way. So I would, even if naming my wants and needs wouldn't necessarily create tension, I would just, I wasn't in a practice of like getting clear with that because I just wanted to be like, I'm easygoing and like, yeah, let's have fun. And, so there was, so that pattern has really surfaced and is kind of transforming with my name shift as well as like a lot of other things.
I see. Um, Usually, when you come to our cultures, um, we when we ask our parents why they name us, who they name us, often in our Fulani culture, they name us after our grandparents or one of their friends or our parents' friends, that kind of thing. The source of our name doesn't come randomly because we want to
Mhm.
preserve the we want to remember our ancestors and we give their name to their grandchildren and sort of. Did you have the chance um, to ask your parents? Because you have been going through this journey of struggling and trying to find ways of changing your name. And
Mhm.
you, at certain point, you decide you will change your name. Did you
Mhm.
have the chance to consult your parents and say, why you name me Kelsey? Did you have
Hmm.
the chance to do that before you take the step
Mm.
forward? Or was
Mhm.
it was not the case? You just came up with Soleil.
Mm. Yeah, my parents, when they chose my birth name, similar to, well, no, so me and my youngest sister, we were named after for just names that my parents liked.
Mm.
So there wasn't a familial connection. I don't even know if they looked at the origins of Kelsey, but I later did, and it was a Welsh origin. And I don't remember what it meant, but yeah, they just liked that name. So,
Okay.
so versus my middle sister, who is named after my mother's father. And I always liked her name because it's very unique. Her name's Daryl. So, yeah, and I remember because I'm a bit older than my sisters, and I remember the process were in when they were naming my sisters, and
Mm.
sort of how that process unfolded, which was really just kind of like saying, well, what about this name or what about this name? And kind of just throwing out possibilities.
Mm,
Um, so I know that my mom wanted to name me Guinevere because she liked the name Guinevere.
mm.
But my dad did not like that name. He wanted to name me Aubrey. Um, and then somehow they landed on Kelsey. So, so that's how that happened. And then, when I was going through the process of changing it,
Mm.
I kind of, I kind of let them know that I was changing it to Soleil with the caveat that they could continue to call me Kelsey.
Okay,
So yeah, just so they wouldn't be like, why are people calling you this? But my mom was actually very enthusiastic about my name change and loves the name Soleil and is like she's been the most supportive
I see.
and calls me Soleil and sends me cards with that name. And she's
Okay,
been very affirming. And I was not expecting that at all. Like I've been surprised actually that she's been the most um, excited about it. My dad, I told him, and he didn't really have a lot to say. And he still calls me Kelsey. But then on my birthday this year, he sang me happy birthday and he included both of my names. He was like, Soleil Kelsey. And it was the first time he's ever like acknowledged that I changed my name. But again, as I said to you before we got on the call, for people who've known me my whole life, like you can still call me Kelsey and it's fine.
I see.
Yeah.
Um, so why, eh, for instance, you can say, well, you can say, my name is Kelsey Soleil Blackwell. You can create a middle name, but the change was quite radical. The Kels is not there no more. Is Soleil. My question will be, was it an act of rebellion? Was it too heavy for you? Or you just wanted to name yourself differently? And when you chose Soleil, did you know the meaning of Soleil and whether Soleil reflected your new personality?
Aha, yeah. Yeah, I did know. I did know.
Okay.
And when I was choosing a name, um, initially I was like, well, I want a culturally appropriate name. So I
Mm,
looked at some Nigerian names because that's where a good portion of my ancestry is from.
mm,
And then I was looking at names that were related to nature, like um, I think Rock. My partner really liked the name Rock, and I was
mm,
like, I don't feel like I'm a rock. Incidentally, his name is Clay, so I was like, of course you didn't like the name Rock because you're Clay. So, um,
mm,
yeah, but I could sort of feel as I was in the process that impulse to go for a culturally relevant name wasn't coming from internally, from my internal desire. It was more coming from what I think the outside world would accept.
mm,
Like, oh yeah, okay, you wanted to decolonize and name yourself something that would you know, be a name that you would have had pre-colonization, right?
mm,
So I could see myself sort of trying to justify why I wanted to change uh wanting to justify the new name. And but then something interrupted that. And again, it's kind of what I was saying before, like, well, what do I want? What do I like? which for me is radical
Mm,
to actually step forward, not because I've been given any approval or been given any like validation, but just from my own sense of this is what I like, this is who I am. Um, and there was a part of me that was worried that I would come across criticism because the French are colonizers. And so, what is it to have a French name when so many people have been colonized by the French?
mm,
And at the same time, um, I, as I mentioned earlier, there was something about choosing something that really felt good to me
mm,
outside of what other people's perceptions might be,
mm,
other people's judgments might be, but just being like, this is why am I choosing this? Because I like it. And then that being enough, which for me was again like a radical way of moving. And so um, I like the way Soleil feels in my mouth. And I've often liked those letters, the S's and the L's. Like I remember in junior high, there was a girl in my school, and her name was Kalila Soleil. And I
mm,
remember I never would say just Kalila. I would always say Kalila Soleil. So
mm.
it's like there's something about those sounds together that feel good.
Yeah.
They evoke um they evoke imagery for me that feels
Mm,
really nice. Um, and then I also really love that Soleil is the sun because um, to the point of really wanting to uh, be expressed in my fullness, the sun is um, uh, such an image that conveys that to me. Um, and I would say my personality historically has been much more identified with the moon, like
mm,
its changeability, its association with the feminine, its association with nurturing, its connection to the tides, the way that it comes out at night. Like all of that has felt like, oh, that's a huge part of who I am. So there was something about the sun and actually like claiming that part of myself, the part that does shine.
mm,
Um, Also, I have received reflections from friends, including you, that I
mm,
am like the sun. Like people are like, you're like the sun. I've heard that my whole life. And one
mm.
of my Dharma names is actually Enlightenment Sun. Um, so yeah, there's layers of meaning
I
to
see.
it.
I see.
Yeah. Hmm.
Along the way, did you lost friends or because you changed your name, or is not the case?
Nope.
Mm.
I haven't lost any friends.
And your parents were supportive of that. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, my mom 100%, and my dad in his own way. My dad's kind of he's very curious. Um, but yeah, we haven't had a long conversation about it, and maybe one day we will.
What about your siblings? Mm.
Uh, my sister is very supportive. My other sister, I'm not in as much contact with because she
Mm.
has some mental health challenges. So she doesn't know. Um, and but when I see her, I will tell her.
I see. As I indicated early, you are an author and you wrote a book, Decolonizing the Body. Is it
Yes.
this part of decolonizing the body, changing your name?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Um, I certainly wouldn't say that this is a prescriptive thing, like in order to decolonize, you need to change your name.
Mm,
But what I will say is decolonizing is um, honoring what's emerging for you, even if it doesn't align with or make sense with uh, the predominant expectations or um, preferences of the collective.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
last time we talked about the book Decolonizing the Body, but
Hmm.
we didn't have the chance to dig deep into it. And I would like
Yeah.
to take this opportunity to go into the book.
Yeah.
And
Here it is.
your yeah, Decolonizing the Body.
Hmm.
Um, can you take us to the chapters? How many chapters um, are in the book?
Yep.
And for each chapter, can you give us the message you wanted to provide to the public?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So the book is divided into four parts.
Okay.
Um,
Mm,
and then each part has two chapters.
mm,
Um, so eight chapters plus a conclusion. And the reason that I divided it into four parts is partly because a lot of the book is informed by numerology, which is a practice that I have studied, and I offer numerology readings. And four is the number of stability,
mm,
four is the number of ground, like four chambers of the heart, four seasons, four sections of the medicine wheel. Um, there's many other things. But so the first part of the book is, well, the four parts of decolonizing are remember, reclaim, release, and relate.
those are the title.
Those are the four parts of the book.
Okay.
So, and I would say they're um, the four areas of focus in decolonization.
Mm,
So, remembering, reclaiming, releasing, and relating.
mm,
So, with remembering, um, there's really, the way that I approach this work is like, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. There's nothing that's broken. There's nothing that, you know, um, you need to put on to decolonize. It's actually a process of remembering the wisdom that already lives in you. So part of that remembering requires a slowing down so that we can bring in the intelligence that lives below the head. One of the things for folks who are entering into this work, there can especially if you come from the, African diaspora, is like a real sense of loss,
mm,
like loss of language, loss of ritual, loss of song, loss of food, loss of virtually everything. And so we can come in feeling like, oh, I need to go and like learn the songs of my people, and I need to go to the land, and I need to, and learn the practices. I need to engage in the spirituality. And um and my suggestion is that you can certainly do those things if you feel called, if that's really emerging in you as an area to put your focus, but they're not requirements in order to remember your lineage,
mm,
because our lineage lives in us. And so how do we engage in a process to reconnect with what's here? It's a move that brings us into recognizing ways of knowing that go beyond the conceptual and linear.
mm,
So that's why the body is so important because the body connects us with, um, it connects us with time in a different way. It connects us with um, our relationship to each other in a different way. Um, there's just so many deeper ways of knowing that may not make sense to the mind that our body can uh, avail to us, but it requires that we're open enough and listening enough for that wisdom to come through. But we all have it because it's like anyone who's ever had a hunch about something or anybody who's had like, the experience of sort of sensing something before it happened or um, walking into a space or connecting with someone and just having that impulse of like, oh, wow, you're somebody I really want to know. Or, the reverse. Oh, wow, this is not a place I want to be, or this is an energy at a, like that's all body knowing happening, and we all have it. And this work really validates that as like a real way to know, our
mm,
predominant culture um, discounts that way of knowing as lesser. And there are people who are quite skilled in those ways of knowing that aren't valued inside of late stage capitalism and supremacy culture. So that's the first piece.
uh, remember, but
Remember,
you don't
yeah,
think remember in some way take you back to the past? Because even I
yeah,
feel like, as you indicated, in the form of body, you
yeah.
know, um, we have a tendency to think the nose, the eyes, or the hair we carry is our hair. But in many cases, your nose can be the nose of your grandparents. The
Hmm.
eyes can be the eyes of things. So there is a
Hmm.
in way you carry the past in you. So you don't
Yes.
think is the way also to revisit your past and learn about you, who you really are, to to better be prepared to be yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, um, so the remember I love because it has two meanings. Like
Okay.
one is like remember, i.e., like remember your past, your history.
Yeah.
And then the other meaning is like remember, thinking about the body and these arms and legs as members. And
Mm,
it's like, what is it to remember or re-put together the body? So that's how I hold it.
mm,
I think one of the things that is important, especially in Western culture, is that um, there can be a real impulse towards arrival. Like, and this gets drilled into us in our academic system
mm,
that, you do grade one, then you do grade two, then you graduate, right? And then you get, and so there's a way in which we can default in our decolonizing to thinking we need to walk this linear path and then if we do it just right, then we'll graduate, we'll arrive.
mm,
And um, th- that's at least in my experience, that's not the way. It's very nonlinear. And
mm,
so one of the ways I think about remembering is being able to attune to what's alive in you, where your legitimate longings are, and then engage in those. And so if your legitimate longings are, like deepening in spirituality, then absolutely pursue that. But pursue it because it's true and alive in you, not because, you're trying to collect um, uh,
a reward or
collect or regain what has been disconnected from coloniality.
I
And
see.
so some of that collecting what's been disconnected from coloniality can look like, oh, I need to learn the language. Oh, I need to learn the spirituality. Oh, I need to learn the practices. I need to learn the rituals. And again, not to say that that isn't valuable and beautiful work, but it's where are you coming from
Mm,
in that pursuit? Because it's so tricky how the narratives of hierarchy and accumulation can creep into our actions,
mm,
right? Where it's like,
mm,
oh, I need to gather all these pieces back. And then I'll actually be decolonized. And then there's a way that, oh, if someone's on this journey, but they're not doing that, then I might judge them. Oh, they're not doing it the right way. They're not actually authentic, right?
mm,
But let's say somebody's really wanting to be in this work and they're feeling really called to I don't know, a flower arranging. They're like, oh, as I think about what like my body really longs to do, it's like I really want to learn how to create beauty, you
mm,
know?
mm,
And then they engage in that practice, but they can't necessarily make that link to flower arranging and Japanese culture. So just taking an example, right?
mm,
But they let themselves pursue that. And then they later learn, oh, wow, actually, this information has come to me, and I come from a line of people who are really into Ikebana, Japanese flower arranging. But maybe I, wouldn't have known that had I not let myself just follow this longing that seemed like totally unrelated. But then those connections can happen later, and or maybe they don't happen at all. So there's a way that we trust that the longing itself is enough for us to pursue it.
I see. So the first part of your book is to remembering. What are the two chapters, and what are their? I'm assuming is chapter one and chapter two,
Yep.
and what are their title, and what did you wanna say on those in chapter one and chapter two as a
Yeah.
message
So
to the
so
readers?
chapter one is how are you, which is like really like starting where you are.
Mm,
Um, really coming into the nuance of that question
mm,
because as we're orienting toward um, decolonization, so often the emphasis is on the what.
mm.
Like what are you doing? What are you?
Right now, you mean?
Just in general with this work, like we tend to be focused on what.
Mm.
Like what are you doing? What are you? What are you? Are you this? Are you that? Right? We can be so
Oh,
focused on the
you mean
what.
by the profession? Often you are defined by profession, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
like we can be defined by a profession, but
Okay.
we also can be defined by what we do in order to validate ourselves.
Okay.
It's
Mm,
more about what we do versus how we are.
mm,
And so there's a shift. I'm inviting a shift in how we're um, locating ourselves or how we're in our identity from the what to the how.
mm. I see.
So how are you and how do you want to be?
Mm,
And that let that be the basis for your journey. And then the next piece that I suggest, and there's a real emphasis in this work around um, uh, the just the grind of capitalism that we're in.
mm,
So then the next piece of chapter one is slowing down because capitalism is like more, do, go, be. It's just this constant kind of churning energy that commodifies human bodies. So the human body becomes this thing that's really like our worth is rooted in our productivity. And so in slowing down, we're we're shifting how we're participating.
Mm.
We're saying that metric is no longer the metric in which I want to value myself.
But if you have people who quite believe that capitalism is one of the best system that allow humanity to evolve, what is your take on that?
Um, I mean, I think any system that is not in some way balanced
Mm,
by governmental insight or governmental reform that is that is for the people
mm,
will uh, any system unchecked is unhealthy.
okay,
And we are in a place where this system has been unchecked for some time.
I see.
I think as a system, it could function if we also held a larger view of what its place is in society. But because we're in a deficit of larger meaning making, of like what it is to be human, why we're here, how we're meant to be in relationship with each other in the natural world, what you might call spirituality, because there's like a deficit of meaning making, or there's not a collective agreement around that, then capitalism has become our religion, at least here. I don't, I can't speak for other places because I'm not there. But
Mm,
in the West, it's become our religion. So it's a system that's gone unchecked.
okay,
And because of that, it no longer serves the people.
I see. So, if I understand your first part of the book, Decolonizing the Body, is
Hmm.
to remember and not to
Hmm.
see yourself as a profession, but as a being who you are.
Hmm.
And the second chapter is to learn to slow down
Hmm.
and not to only think about achieving things,
Hmm.
because achieving things for you doesn't define the person.
Hmm.
What is the second part is about
Yeah.
of your book?
Yes. And also, I don't know, Alpha, if we're going to get through all the book today. So
Mm,
maybe I can just kind of go through it quickly.
okay.
So the second part of the book is reclaim. So as we're slowing down, there's an invitation to um, re-inhabit our bodies.
Mm,
So the ways our bodies are commodified by capitalism and particularly systems of supremacy when we're looking at marginalized bodies.
mm,
Um, what is it to reclaim our body on our own terms? And then as we
okay.
do that, inevitably we contact um, the what's stored in the body, which is our own history and the history of our people. So there's good reason that we haven't been um, there's good reason that some of us have disconnected from the body because when we connect with the body, there's a lot of pain that's held there. So what is that journey that invites us back into a relationship with the body so that we can engage in or touch into the wisdom that it holds? And then the next piece
The third part.
in this chapter, chapter 4,
Okay, chapter four.
is challenging imposter syndrome. And this is kind of a systems analysis um, that oftentimes when we're in these systems and we're not and we're marginalized bodies, There's a way in which when we don't feel like we're thriving in the system, that we can self-blame and say, oh, if I was just more confident, if I was just um, more efficient, and so there can be this sort of self-flagellation that happens where we're like um, berating ourselves for not being better. And this chapter invites a larger systemic view that imposter syndrome isn't a personal fault. It's a societal issue. And the reason that it occurs in mass, particularly among women and folks of color, is because of the ways that we are conditioned from a very early age and the ways that we're regarded inside of those systems. So
mm,
it's a invitation to um, and reclaiming. We're reclaiming our own dignity, we're reclaiming our own agency, and we're also um, recognizing that the ways that we've struggled inside of, the corporate environment or whatever, is not a personal failing, that we're not broken in some way, that the ways that we've adapted and to survive inside of those systems are actually wise adaptations and safety strategies to survive in environments that were, created by dominant culture.
mm.
So that's that. Then we have release.
Is it the third part?
That's part three. Yeah.
Okay. Mm,
And that chapter we have something called smashing the Oreo and tending your river.
mm,
And that release is kind of what I was talking about with my name change, which is once we start to see that larger view, then um, what is it to reclaim our own narrative? What is it to um, move from a place of internal authority or self-authorship?
mm,
So, smashing the Oreo, the name of that comes from just the what we do as humans is we like create categorical boxes that people are intended to fit inside. Like, you know, are you black? Are you white? Are what class are you in? Educated, not educated, male, female, da 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 da, right? And so,
mm,
in some ways, like I would have put this in the book had I written today, but it's sort of like a queering or a way of breaking down some of those boxes
mm,
and getting and learning what is it to move from a place of like real internal authority and self-authorship.
mm,
Um, and then tending the river. This is about how we tend to our boundaries as we're moving in relationship.
mm,
So, and there's examples there around why it's so difficult, how boundaries get sort of snatched from us, um, and then what can happen when we react really strongly and have very maybe impermeable boundaries, which are more like walls, and then what happens when we actually have not enough boundaries, and then how that can manifest in our lives, and then what is it to kind of come into that place that is that allows for connection, but also allows for us to say no or move away when needed. Um, and I bring in this analogy of like thinking about our boundaries as a river, you
mm,
know. So there's that. And then the last part of the book is called Relate. And this is really where a lot of my interest is right now. And that is like, well, what is this human life about? You know,
mm,
what is, how do we sense make? about our place, what has allowed humanity to get to where we are now, and then what is possible for the future. Where might we go? And there's, for me, a real a real attunement or appreciation for the human capacity to create in relationship. Um, how we have survived historically has been because we have moved as a collective. And now we're getting more and more isolated.
Mm,
So, how do we start to reform those, or not just reform because they're already there, but recognize the interconnection that we live inside, um, and start to move with more of that collective consciousness. So, opening to joy is um, starting to see a possibility or imagine a possibility of of more goodness, more beauty, more connection, more love, more
mm,
rest, more ease, and then how we need each other in order to make that possible. And then cultivating community is the piece around how, so because of this isolation, so many of us are like, well, where do we start? Um, and uh, my my hope in that chapter is that folks can recognize that that we are inherently part of a web. So even if we feel isolated and alone, actually there are many seen and unseen forces that are supporting us to be where we are in any moment. And so can we open up our listening to start to tend to those relationships and sort of expanding our view beyond the human realm, to start to recognize our relationships with the natural world, our relationships with nature,
mm,
our relationships with landscape. And that when we open up to seeing that web of support, that is an exchange of mutuality, that it's not just about, well, what is this tree giving me? But it's like, oh, I see, how you help purify the air, or how you offer shade, or how your energy feels welcoming and settling in my body. And I actually want to cultivate beloved community with you, and
mm,
beloved community being about uh, I tend to you as I know that you tend to me. And
mm,
so starting to actually show up and like offer water, um, pick the weeds or whatever, and how as we actually take those actions, we start to recognize community in a not just a conceptual way, but in an embodied, visceral, felt way. So
see.
that's the last chapter.
Mm.
Yeah,
What was the conclusion you come up with after
the
going through all
conclusion,
those chapters?
yeah, the conclusion is freedom is now, which is like again that sort of sense that there's nowhere we need to get. Like that orientation towards getting somewhere is just a deeply colonialist capitalist narrative. Other Indigenous folks have a much deeper understanding of time as a spiral or the sense of deep time. Um, so it's really like, can we orient in this moment toward the freedom that is here? And then, even inside of all the challenges and difficulties that we're also navigating. But if we hold only toward the struggle, then we're creating more of that. So it's
Mm,
like, yes, the struggle is here, and we're not denying that, and we're not negating it, but and and I think one of the things that has helped me orient this way is having a deeper relationship with my body, where it's like when I'm experiencing pain in my body, sometimes it feels like that's all I can experience. It's like, oh, heartbreak. Well, all I am right now in this moment is heartbreak. But the more that I have learned how to be with my body,
mm,
even when there's something paining, there's other places of my body that are not paining. Maybe my legs feel strong. Maybe my hands feel strong. And so then it's like, yes, there's heartbreak here. And I also can feel the strength of my legs. I can also feel how my hands have mobility and can move and express themselves. And so my view is bigger around what's actually here in the present moment. And that gives me more options around the choices I'm making.
mm.
So, like I have more capacity, right? So that's what I'm saying in Freedom is Now is like, yeah, we got a lot of work to do. And that's not all that's here. There's also a lot of goodness that's here, and we can attune to that. And as we attune to that, that helps us envision, imagine, and create in a different way.
I see. As you indicated, um, and you show in the book was written by Miss Kelsey Blackwell,
Yes.
and now your name is Soleil Blackwell. Do you
Yes.
think with the new name, you are thinking about writing a book that reflect your actual name?
One day I will. Yeah, one day I will. I
Mm,
mean, I don't, someone asked me if I did a reprint of this book, if I would change it to Soleil,
mm,
but I wouldn't because Kelsey wrote that book.
okay. So,
And my next book will probably be written by Soleil, and
mm,
um, I don't know what she's gonna say.
I see. So, if a young girl or a young man is entertaining to change their name,
Yeah.
what advice are you going to give them?
Um, yeah, I would say trust the unfolding,
Mm,
even if it takes you in a direction you weren't expecting.
I see. Miss Soleil Blackwell,
Mhm.
thank you very much for taking us in this journey
Yes.
and allowing us to learn more on what triggered you to change your name and taking us in your book again titled Decolonizing the Body.
Mhm.
Um,
Thank
and
you
uh,
for having me, Alpha. It's always nice to see you.
and please save a copy for me with your autograph. Whenever I make it to San Francisco, I will come pick
Well,
up.
should I sign it Kelsey or should I sign it Soleil?
Of course, Soleil.
Awesome. Awesome, Alpha.
My dear, I thank you very much for accepting my invitation and sharing your journey. And I will point out also your blog, and I will be reading and sharing the links for people to read. As it's quite interesting your writing, and whenever you come up with a topic with interest of mine, I will reach out again and discuss about it.
I look forward to that. Yes,
Uh,
that'd be awesome.
thank you, Miss Soleil, and look forward to keeping in touch. Mm.
Thanks, Alpha. Until next time.
Oh, bye.
All
Mm.
right, bye.